The other day I was shopping at Target and I saw a very cute mini backpack. I am showing you a picture of it right here. And I realized that my life would be a little bit better if I had my own mini backpack. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to make a very simple mini backpack that comes together with about a half yard of fabric. This project is suitable for the total beginner, so let's jump in. The finished size of this mini backpack is about 10.5 inches wide, about 11 inches tall, and it has 4 inches of depth down at the bottom corners. And it closes with 2 simple snaps. If you want, you can add a really simple pocket to the inside, and then it has adjustable straps on the back. Now, let me show you what you need to make your own. The main panels of the bag are all 12 inches wide and 14 inches tall. So I have 2 pieces of fabric for the inside, and I have 2 for the outside. I have used a lightweight canvas for the exterior fabric, so you might want to choose a fabric that's a little bit more durable, something a little sturdier. And I have already quilted it onto some cotton batting to give it even more structure. You don't have to do that, but I would recommend adding some batting, or if you use interfacing, you could add interfacing to the back. You also want a couple yards of 1-inch strap. You could buy 1-inch webbing, or you could make your own. I have made my own for this project. I'm linking to one of my tutorials that shows you how to make your own if you choose to go that route. If you want to add a little interior or exterior pocket, you're going to also want to make something for that. This is about 4 inches or 5 inches tall and about 5.5 or 6 inches wide. And I just whipped this up with a little scrap of fabric, and I'm going to join this to one of my inner panels. For the adjustable straps, I am using some 1-inch ladder lock buckles. You probably have these on a backpack in your house right now. They just have these 2 bars across the center, and one of the bars has some little grippy teeth. I have a link to these in the description box below this video, so click underneath if you aren't sure where to find these. Before I forget, I wanted to tell you that if you can't find these near you, you can also use a 1-inch slider bar. So this piece of hardware has just one little loose bar in the middle that wiggles around, and it's a little bit more slidey, so it's not going to be as secure as one of these, but in a pinch, one of these will also work for your bag. And I am using 2 snap sets. These are 4-piece snap sets, and they are 5/8 of an inch. And you could use a larger snap. You could even just use 1 snap for your bag, but you're going to want some way to close it at the top. The first thing that we want to do is actually sew the straps onto the back panel for the outside of the bag. And so I'm working with this fabric. It doesn't really matter which is the front, which is the back. This is going to be my back panel. And I want to first cut off 2 4-inch lengths of strap. So I'm just going to use my cutting mat here and cut 4. And then another 4. And then these are going to hold the ladder lock onto the bottom of the back of the bag. So it's a good idea to get some chalk and a ruler for this, because we want to place these in a pretty precise spot on the bag so that everything fits nicely in the end. So these guys are going to go 3 inches from the side edge and 3 inches up from the bottom edge. And so I'm going to get my ruler here and just find that. Actually, I'm going to get my larger quilting ruler, and I'm going to put a 3-inch square on the corner. So this is 3 inches from the side, 3 inches from the top, and I'm going to put a little bit of chalk right there, which you probably can barely see. And I'm going to be placing the bottom edge of this strap right on top of that dot. And first we want to get this over the smooth part of the ladder lock buckle. just like that. So we're just kind of threading it onto there. So now the buckle looks like that. And then we want to cover up the raw edges down here. So what I have been doing is just folding 1/2 of an inch of one of the straps over the other raw end of the strap. And then I'm going to sew that. Oops, I keep doing that. Okay, so I'm going to fold this 1/2 an inch of it over that raw edge. And then I'm going to sew it on so that this raw edge is flush against the back of the bag. It shouldn't fray or anything. So now I have the bottom corner lined up with that little bitty chalk mark. And then this is maybe one of the more tricky parts. I want to pin this in place, but it is a little bulky. So you might bend a pin, but that is okay. All right, so I've got one pinned. I'm gonna go ahead and pin the other one also 3 inches from the side, 3 inches from the top. Now that these are both pinned in place, I'm gonna take them to the machine and sew a box with an X in the middle. All right, these are sewn on at the bottom. So next up, I'm gonna sew 2 straps at the top, and I'm gonna use my quilting ruler. This time I want them to be 3 inches from the side, just like the bottom, but I only want them to be 1.5 inches from the top inch. So I am going to put a little dot right there and repeat that on this side. 3 inches in and 1.5 inches from the top. Now I'm going to take the rest of my strap and I am going to cut it in half. So I just want to find the middle here by bringing these ends together. And once I find the middle, I'm going to cut right at the middle. And then these are going to get sewn on similar to how we did this little box. And to cover the raw edge, we're just going to fold it over 1/2 inch and then again 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to place the top right corner right on my dot. And I want to make sure that it's going to go straight into that buckle down there. And then again, this is a little bit hard to pin. So you could also just kind of take it over to the machine and kind of hold it in place. I'm going to repeat that for this one, and then I'm going to go sew. All right, these are sewn on at the top, and next I'm just going to thread them through these bottom buckles, but I'm not going to finish the ends yet because I want to be able to try this whole thing on and then shorten them as needed. But it's fun to go ahead and get them in their buckles. And now I'm going to be sewing the panels together. I'm going to be sewing the 2 outside panels with the right sides together, and I want to make sure that the strap is near the middle so that it doesn't get caught in a seam. So you can kind of tuck it up and out of the way. And I'm going to go ahead and clip this on all 4 sides. If you like to add a little optional personalized tag in between your layers, you could add that here. I'm going to go ahead and add one of my little tags. Actually, I'm going to add it on this side and clip it in place. All right, these are pinned together, and I'm going to do the same thing with my inside layers of the mini backpack. But if you wanted to add a little pocket, you're going to want to sew that on first. I'm going to go ahead and find the center of my little mini pocket by just kind of folding it in half and creasing it. And then I want to find the center of one of my panels by folding it in half, creasing it. Of course, you could use your ruler and be super precise, but I find that the crease method works pretty well. And I want it to be about 3 inches from the top edge here. You could obviously add one of these to the outside of your bag too. So go crazy with pockets. We all need more pockets, right? Okay, pocket is sewn on, so now I can put my inside fabric right sides together and pin them, and then I'm going to sew the insides together with a 1/2 inch seam allowance and the outsides together with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So I'll be right back. Okay, both of the layers are sewn together, so the next step is to box the corners, and I am going to be doing a 2-inch square on each corner to box it. And I am measuring that from the raw edge of the bag, not the seam. So you could measure it from the seam or the raw edge. You just need to do it consistently across all of your parts of your bag. And I'm going to show you how to box one of the corners, and then it's the same step for all 4 corners. So I'm just going to cut away the square. And since I used such a bulky chalk, I'm actually going just to the inside of the chalk. And of course, I'm going to save this in my scrap pile. Now I want to open up the bottom corner of the bag. So I'm grabbing both sides of fabric and pulling them apart from each other. And that brings this cut edge together so that now we have a straight line, and the bottom seam is lined up with the top seam. And then I'm going to go ahead and put a pin right there, and then I'm going to sew across this straight line with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And obviously I'm going to need to do that on all of my corners. So I'll be right back. Okay, I finished with all 4 of the corners, so they look like this now. And the next step is to turn one of the layers right side out. It doesn't matter which one. And then it's going to go into the other layer. So I'm just going to push it down to the bottom so that now the right sides are touching on the inside of my mini backpack. And now I want to line up the side seams. And I kind of like to open up my side seams when I do this, but you don't have to do that. So I want this seam to be touching this seam. And then I'm going to go ahead and put a clip right there. And then I'm going to repeat that on this side. So open up my seams and bring them together so they are lined up nice and straight with each other. And then I am going to add a couple more pins around this top edge so that when I go to sew, things stay where they're supposed to stay. And once these are all pinned, it's time to sew the top edge. And again, I'm going to use a 1/2 inch seam allowance to sew this top edge. But I want to leave an opening, and I'm going to leave my opening on the back. So the side that has the straps, it doesn't really matter, but I'm going to leave an opening of about 3 or 4 inches right here so that I can turn the whole bag right side out. Now that the top edge is sewn, except for here, I'm going to go ahead and turn the whole thing right side out through the opening. And I probably should have left my opening a little bit bigger, but give me a minute and I'll be right back. All right, so now the mini backpack looks like this, and we are almost done. So I'm going to push the inner layer into the outer layer, and then I am going to iron this top edge really nicely, or as nicely as I am capable. And then I'm going to do a top stitch. So just give me a sec. All right, the top stitching is done and the mini backpack already looks really, really cute. The second to last thing to do is to install the snaps, and I have been putting my snaps 3 inches from the side seams and 1/2 inch from the top edge. So you can use your measuring mat or get a ruler out and find 3 inches in and 1/2 inch down, and then just put a little bit of chalk right there. And then I'm going to repeat that on this side. 3 inches in and 1/2 inch down is right there. I have a whole tutorial on how to install a 4-piece snap set like this. So I'm linking to that tutorial right here if you want a really clear step-by-step. In this video, I'm just going to get it done. And I like to use a leather punch tool for my snaps, but you could just use a seam ripper. If you don't have one of these, you definitely don't need one of these. And I want to put the pretty side on the front of the mini backpack. And I am using my snap setting tool. And I'm just going to get these in. So I'm going to go ahead and keep working, and I will be right back. Once the front ones are installed, you can just push on the metal and maybe even turn it a little bit, and that pressure will create a little ring in your fabric, and you want to get a hole in the middle of that ring, and that is where you install the second part of the snap. So I have these 2 little holes, which are probably kind of hard for you to see. But again, just check out my full tutorial on this process if it's in any way confusing. It's really simple to do, but it is helpful to see someone do it up close. Okay, they are finished. It's always a good idea to double check that your snaps are nice and snappy. And now the very last thing to do is to try on the mini backpack and trim down any extra strap material that you don't need. So I'm going to go ahead and try it on and then adjust it. And the way I am going to finish these raw edges is very similar to how I attached it here. You can either just do some straight lines right across once you've folded over that raw edge, or if you want to do a similar box with an X in the middle, you could do that. So I'm going to go ahead and try this on, shorten the straps, and that'll be it. Before I forget, you want to make sure that you don't cut off too much in case you want to be able to adjust your bag a little bit or, loan it to someone to wear. So I would say leave about 4 or 5 extra inches off the edge here. So I'm going to cut off about 7 or 8 inches, and then I will hem the remaining piece. Before I forget, I do have a PDF sewing pattern that shows this version of the mini backpack and a bunch of other variations of this design if you want to add something like a zipper closure or a flap closure or more elaborate pockets. The link to that pattern is right underneath this video, so just click underneath to snag it. And the mini backpack is all finished. Like I said, if you want a bunch of variations, just click underneath this video to snag a sewing pattern.